Hello, and welcome to episode 26 of Break the Cycle with me, your host, Joshua Smith. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Tuesday. I actually had 2 days off in a row this week. Pretty stoked, feeling good, a little recharged, never hurt anybody at all. Start off with some sponsors. Of course, we have Coffee for all your delicious Italian coffee needs, delivered directly to your door. Bring the taste of Italy home. This is delicious stuff. Guys, use BTC at checkout. Get a 10% discount on some of the best coffee you've ever had in your life. You don't even have to put on the mask and head to Hy-Vee to get it. It's good stuff. Of course, we have Lobster.com, the man, the myth, the legend, quickly becoming one of my best friends in this world. I love this guy to death. His designs are amazing. He hand draws everything. Go to toplobster.com. I'm sure you will find some awesome stuff that you enjoy, much like this Epstein Didn't Kill Himself shirt that I'm wearing tonight that you can get for 10% less than the listed price by using BTC at checkout. And of course, anthemplanning.com for all of your wonderful emergency and crisis planning needs. They're doing a job that the government sucks ass at. They're doing it for cheaper and probably more efficiently. We had Amy Lepore on the show. She's amazing. She's one of the executive producers of the show. Please give them your business. Find out if there's anything they can do for you today. So anyways, we got a pretty awesome show today. I'm a little stoked about this. You may have seen him not too long ago on the news. I mean, he was everywhere. This clip was being passed around. He is the Boog Boy extraordinaire, Magnus Panvidya. How are you doing today, sir?
Pretty fantastic. Got a lot of big things in store and continually laughing at the clown world we live in and seeing my face all over every kind of news, and they can't figure out what I am. Like the new, within the same 24 hours, the New York Post called me a far-right extremist, and Jack Posobiec called me Antifa, so that was fun.
That's pretty cool. I follow Jack, and man, some of his takes, I'm like, dude, what are you doing, man? What's going on here, dude?
Right.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about this, and this is actually I have a Patreon, and we have a Discord server, so there's some really cool people in there that are patrons of the show, and they want to know from your point of view. I mean, I consider myself a fan and a supporter of the Big Igloo. I do. And I got a Hawaiian shirt upstairs, ready to go whenever. You know what I mean? But how has the perception of the Boog changed over the last year as it's getting more mainstream media attention? I mean, what have you encountered?
It's just gotten more schizophrenic because like the underlying principles and like what it's always kind of been about has never changed. Yet like people's interpretation of it and people that have kind of latched onto it have always been really confused. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it used to be like a right-wing thing or a libertarian thing or whatever. They'd apply their labels to it. But if you go back to like the original Facebook pages that had like 30K, like 50K people on it and everything, all of them were run by my friends, and all of us were anarchists. And a lot of us were like mutualists and stuff like that. Like it's always been an or agorists or any of those. It's always been kind of like an anarchist thing. And then in the very beginning, a lot of like Trump supporters and right-wing people like attached to it. And then recently, like a lot of like left-wing people are attaching to it. And it's like, it's always been kind of this yeehaw, fuck the law ideology, so.
Sure, and I think that's what
the
a lot
mainstream
of people
media
understand.
can't figure that out.
Yeah,
obviously they're rampant status, so they have to put you in a box.
Yeah, it's funny to me because when I first started following the Boog several years ago, I mean it wasn't it's not some new thing. It was like it was pretty widely known that it was people who wanted to be left alone to grill. I mean that's really what it was. We want to grill. Yeah. Leave us alone. We're peaceful people. And this is the same speech that you gave. Where was that, by the way? I can't remember.
That was in front of the Lansing State Capitol building
in Michigan, right?
Yeah,
and
I had snipers pointing rifles at me. I had a Black Hawk circling the entire thing. There was like 30 National Guard and probably every cop in the state there. It was super fun.
That's crazy, dude. And that's it's so funny to me because like it's literally a group of people who are armed who want to be left alone. They're not insurrectionists. They're not trying to take out peaceful people. They're just saying, hey, we're here and we're going to protect ourselves and our liberty and our freedom. And that's what the Boog movement was always about.
Yeah, it's like radical separatist like ideology. Like that's the Boog pretty much.
Yeah, but now it's this, you're either like hardcore leftist left wing or you're a alt-right Nazi insurrectionist, right? By the way, thank you so much to Almighty Beach who just threw $100 super chat. You rule. And John Chow for saying, loved you on Jimmy Dory. I always mess up his name. Somehow I, as a libertarian, found you from a progressive show. That's the future. And yes, it is. But anyways,
Yes.
so back to the thing at hand. I mean, how is it being an anarcho-communist Nazi?
Oh yeah, I always think of the Simpsons skit where he's like, "We're under attack by Nazi commies." Like that's always how I feel. But I've heard everything. I'm a secret FBI plant. Alex Jones said that I was a communist infiltrator to destroy the Second Amendment. I get that I'm a Russian bot. I get that like I'm infiltrating the infiltrating left-wing movements is really hilarious. Seeming I wear a Hawaiian shirt and like open carry a rifle and show up to protest. Very incognito, super inconspicuous,
Yeah,
Very,
you're not standing out at all.
Yeah, no, but yeah, it's just funny because people can't wrap their minds around it. And I got it like with Saturday, our local chapter split into two, and half of us went to Mansfield, Ohio for an event that was, we called it the Flowers for Alexander. It was for Alexander Rios. He was a guy that was killed in Mansfield, Ohio jail. And like they posted videos of like the cops tasing him and beating him and saying like, fuck him up, hit him harder. And like typical, awful shit like that. And then the other half of the chapter went to the UP for an anti-lockdown Pro 2A event. And both sides were like, oh, look they just hate cops and they're radical commies. And the other one is like, look, they're infiltrating, they're hanging out with Republicans. And it's like, no, it's just freedom. Like it's real simple concept, like freedom.
Sure.
Anti-authority.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, so here's the thing, and I like Black Lives Matter, right? You guys spend a lot of time with Black Lives Matter, and I think that some people, I think that's where the breakdown is for some people, because we know that at the upper echelon of the BLM movement, I mean this what they call leadership or whatever it is, have shown very, very heavy Marxist tendencies. I mean, like extremely heavy, but that's not the majority. That's not the entire movement. I mean, that's not how
it's increasingly not the movement at all, because if you look, I think it was like 3 months ago, San Diego, San Francisco, Chicago, DC, and New York, all their BLM chapters came out and said fuck the national organization. And then just like a week ago, Breonna Taylor's mother went to the news and was like, screw the national organization, they've never done anything for us, they took all of our money and didn't give anything back. And like obviously then you have like people like Hotep Jesus and Maj Touré that have been like, screw them. And then some of my best friends in like BLM 757 like voted for Joe Jorgensen and shit. So it's like it's just infinitely more complicated than people understand. And there's a lot of backstory to all of this that you'll never really find out about, because the activists aren't going to tell you about it unless they trust you. And the media is never going to report on it because they have a very specific narrative they're trying to push with the BLM movement that even the activists within it find annoying. Like everybody forgot that like thousands of BLM like protesters went and tried to storm the CNN building, and the CNN reporters sitting there like, why are they attacking us? We're on your side. And it's like, you have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Right. Well, and yeah, like I get that. And, but you're real big on the libertarian unity stuff. And so like, so like, I want you to make a case why we should ally with anarcho-communists as being, as what some would call these right-wing libertarians, which is, I guess what I am or whatever. I definitely believe in capitalism and property rights. So,
yeah, my argument would be that the boat is full of holes and we're all going to drown. So, if you do not have power right now, you should probably be working together with other people that don't have power to stop this giant destructive federal government that has locked the entire country down, that is bombing all over the world, that's assassinating people, that's throwing everyone in jail for thought crimes and shit like that. And it's like, at some point, when the house is on fire, you need to stop arguing about the window dressing and like try to put the fire out. And if you think about it, like 50% of the American people are just apolitical. Like they are like, I just want to grill types. They have surface level understanding of politics. They're not involved at all. And then you have like another 30% of people that are like rabid statists, left, right, neocons and neolibs. The last 20% is exploded over like 500 political factions within left and right, and all of them fucking hate each other. So like at some point, you just have to start reaching across lines to solve problems, and whatever one problem you can at a time. It doesn't matter if it's a police brutality thing or a Second Amendment thing or whatever. Like you just show up with whoever also agrees with you on that one particular thing. Solve that one particular problem, and then keep solving problems you agree with people on until you run out of that, and then you can go back to fighting like cats or dogs.
Sure. We can start fighting about who's going to own what business and all that good stuff, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, for me, me and a lot of the people that I ally with, our biggest issue is the warfare state, right? I mean, and to me, it's got to be the number one issue if I'm going to really ally and work with you. And I do know some ANCOMs who are really anti-war. I mean, big time anti-war. In fact, as far as the left goes, they're about the only people I know that are still pretty anti-war. But sometimes, some don't put it at the forefront, like the right libertarians or whatever you want to call us. How do you feel about these wars? I know you're not. So we talked a little bit about this before the show started, and you're not actually an anarcho-communist, but you're also not an anarcho-capitalist. You're more aligned with the mutualist, which for those that don't understand, a lot of times they will say that mutualism was the initial creation of anarchism by Proudhon, and they share a lot of the same things on both sides of the anarchist spectrum. So where are you at, man?
Yeah, that's pretty much, like, I'm definitely a mutualist. Pretty much, the thing that separates us between the left and the right sort of anarchists, for lack of a better term, is like, we do not believe in expropriation or seizure of property, so we're not really ANCOMs, and we also believe in markets. We believe in profit. We believe in selling and like having money and stuff like that. But we split from ANCAPs, particularly on land. That seems to be the big one. Like, we don't believe in we define it as not in use. Like, we don't believe that you can own like a resort in Florida and live in Minneapolis and never go there. And like, it's complicated, but it's kind of like the foundation of it. That comes from a lot of like Proudhon and like Spooner and stuff like that.
Sure. But I mean, say we get to this anarchist society, how do you stop people from doing that?
Well, that's that. How do we stop things now? That's always the golden anarchist question. That's why I love ace anarchists and stuff like that. Of like, we're expected to answer all of these questions.
Right.
But if you have to ask a status how they solve any of these problems, they're like, well,
right.
There'll be problems. There'll be tyrannical regimes. There'll be violence. There'll be rape and awful things, and everything will continue to happen, but no more so than it is now. And I'm probably going to misquote him and forget who said it, but the quote was, "Anarchism is not a promise that people will not lie, cheat, steal, and murder, but statism is a guarantee someone will."
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's 100%. I mean, the state is a monopoly on violence, and they use that violence quite frequently.
Yeah, all the time. And that's like the main thing too. Like, getting back to the anti-war thing, of the whole reason, like, I wouldn't say the only reason, but one of the biggest reasons I started the Unity Coalition was to revive Occupy and revive the anti-war movement. Because it is insane to me that I can go to like a BLM protest or go to like a union meeting and then also go hang out with a bunch of libertarians in the woods and then also hang out with a bunch of Trump supporters. And everybody is like, yeah, we all hate these wars. These wars are stupid. We're making the entire world worse. We're assassinating and bombing and stealing from everyone and just printing insane amounts of fucking money to afford it. And yet there's no anti-war movement. And it's just surreal. Like 60% of the country thinks like we should all bring the troops home and just stop fucking around everywhere else. Yet there's no anti-war movement. And then you start to look into it, and it's all this, for lack of a better term, intersectionality kind of idea of like, you can't. The best example I could show to this is like when I used to be a big environmental activist. And if we went to go protest a tree getting chopped down or something like that, nobody was walking up to you and being like, what's your opinion on capitalism? What's your opinion on abortion? How do you feel about the Middle East? Like, no, we were just there to stop the fucking tree from getting cut down.
Sure.
But now it can't seem to be that way. Like, you can't show up to an anti-police brutality protest unless you agree with everyone on everything. You can't show up to any of these movements. And they've chopped us down into these tiny little chunks that will never get big enough to accomplish anything. And more often than not, like, when you start to see these problems come together and get addressed, the people that lead that get fucking assassinated.
Sure.
The FBI and the CIA were not overly concerned with people like Malcolm X and Fred Hampton until they said, hey, maybe we should talk to the white people too. And then they got shot and killed,
right.
So like, I always kind of judge what's the best path forward is what gets you immediately killed by the government. And it seems to be that unity seems to be that thing they're the most afraid of. So that's the direction I'm going to push it.
Of course. And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? But yeah, it does seem that way. I mean, anytime a group of people coalesce around an issue that they're going to push the federal government, especially on, someone ends up dead, man. It's pretty crazy how that works out.
I know it was so fun the first time I went on Jimmy Dore, and he's like, "You remind me a lot of Fred Hampton. You know what happened to him, right?" And I was like,
"Sure do."
Yep, sure do.
Could you imagine? I mean, we're watching what's going on in Canada right now, which is just blowing my mind, man. And could you imagine if the Canucks finally just stood up and were like, "No more," you know?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are focused on the COVID stuff. They totally forgot that right before this, they announced that I think it's in a year now they're going to confiscate all the semi-automatic rifles.
Right.
So it's like.
Yeah. Shocking.
How crazy how one of those leads directly into another. If only there was a historical precedent for this happening.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny because all the places that they try to take your right to self-defense is where it's happening the worst. I mean, Australia, they're beating people in the streets for not wearing their mask. Canada, They're beating people in the streets for not wearing their mask. They're now arresting people for holding church service, which it doesn't matter if you're religious, you should be against that, period. You know what I mean? Especially if you're saying you're for liberty, you're for freedom, then freedom of religion has to be one of those things. And it's just crazy to me. So how do we arm the Canadians, man?
I like it. I'm like 30 minutes from the border, so I've joked about like forming the Boog Navy and just having a Dunkirk where we go save all the Canadians and bring them back to Michigan. But it's like I don't even know what to do up there because like they've bit down into the boot super hard, and like there's some base Canadians, but God, you talk to a lot of them and they're just all for this shit, and it's like, oh no. But that's kind of like a problem with a lot of like the kind of like Norwegian, like Scandinavian sort of base, like that's a lot of Canada and obviously like French culture. It's a lot of like consent and like uniformity. This is what they believe in a lot. Like it's like ideological uniformity about everything, and that can shift in good ways and that can shift in bad ways. And it's like right now they're on a bad path, and I don't really know what to do about that. Like people talk about Mexico being bad all the time, and it's like, well, Canada, like,
yeah.
I talk to Canadian anarchists, and they're more afraid to publicly voice their opinions than like anyone I know. Like, because you infamously had that one dude that was banned from using the internet for a year because he made fun of a feminist on Twitter.
Right.
And it's like,
right. Yeah, I mean, and you got the UK. People have been arrested for saying things on the internet that weren't violent. You know what I mean?
Teaching their pug the Nazi salute and go to jail for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's something a little different. But I mean, there's people.
That's still.
Yeah, you shouldn't be going to jail for freedom of speech issues at all. I mean, I don't give a shit who you hate. You know what I mean? Like, but
yeah,
arresting
and then
somebody.
you had the anti-protesting bill in the UK where they literally can shut down any protest at any time if the government deems it to be a nuisance. And again, like I personally know a couple libertarians that are in the UK that went to that protest, and that was all like communists and like Labour Party and everything. And they went to that protest. So it's like unity, man.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm willing to ally with anybody who wants to ally on certain issues. Like, I'm not going to say that I'm, I think that we're going to be a match made in political heaven. You know what I mean? If somebody's against the warfare state and you want to work to roll back the warfare state, absolutely. If somebody's against the Federal Reserve, which you should all be against the Federal Reserve at this point. If you're not paying attention. Then let's work together, roll back the Federal Reserve. You want to roll back the drug war? We should definitely be doing that. I don't care which political ideology you align with. And so to me, that's a unifying issue for sure.
Yeah, and you've seen little like bursts of this occasionally, like in New Hampshire, like a Alliance of the Free State Project and progressives got like 2 votes away from ending qualified immunity. You have like I think it was like Montana or something like that, where Proud Boys like joined up with BLM to like advocate for ending the drug war, and then particularly, which like I can lead this into something I want to tell you about after this. I saw a video from 2 years ago where like the national chair of the Mises caucus showed up to the Women's March on the Pentagon, which were all like socialists and communists and everything like that, and just like showed up and were like, hey, we're libertarians and we hate war too, and they marched with them, which like that blew my mind. Yeah, that blew my mind on the Mises shit because I'd heard obviously like,
Oh yeah, we're all right.
like
We're all right Nazis. That's what you
yeah, but
always hear about
I
us.
was like, oh, he's literally there with like some of my friends that are like explicit socialists and they're like, hey, let's end the war. And it was like, oh, that's the unity shit, like right there.
Yeah,
And
despite what you have heard about Michael Heiss and the Mises Caucus, I've been a member of the Mises Caucus since its inception in 2017. Michael Heiss put together the End of Fed rally. He goes to all kinds of he works with all kinds of different people on all kinds of different issue-based coalitions. He is the furthest thing from alt-right Nazi you will ever meet, and so it's pretty funny whenever that rap gets put on us.
right. That's always what I thought like the LP needs to be is like the pressure party that's the glue between like desperate political factions to solve problems. Like we should be like the issue killing party of like, hey, you annoying Republicans and you annoying Democrats, shut up for 5 minutes, stand with us, solve this problem. Like that's always how I viewed the LP.
Sure.
So it's like nice to see like him doing that. And then obviously like Spike Cohen running all over, like Maj Touré is another good example of like libertarians doing libertarian shit, you know?
Right. Well, everybody wants to be a libertarian until it's time to do libertarian shit. Some of us stand up and actually do the shit. Which is important.
Dan's one of my fucking heroes. Like Dan Brennan of like he was posting on like Bernie Sanders tweets being like, hey, you know, I'm smuggling insulin from Mexico and selling it to people. Like,
oh yeah, Berman's amazing, and Berman ran for president in 2018. He never got the media he deserved. But Dan's a good friend of mine too. I love Dan to death, and he wore this big top hat that says taxation and stuff. But that motherfucker really like traffics insulin from Mexico to America to sell at cost. He doesn't even make profit off the shit. Really, you know what I mean? And he's trafficking it, and he's getting it for like a small fraction of the price that you pay for it here. And
it's like $17 compared to like $350, $500.
That's
like
some serious libertarian shit. He's basically doing the Dallas Buyers Club, but for diabetics. I mean,
yeah,
without the
and
club.
that's what I like. That's what I'm perpetually advocating for libertarians because like my biggest criticism of you guys as an anarchist. And it's like the only one that I think is totally valid because I think all the other libertarian criticisms are bullshit, is we have a tendency to be autistic, basement-dwelling, antisocial people that do not like to go out into the world, and we just say taxation is theft on the internet and kind of mind our own business, which is part of the ideology. I want to be left alone. Makes sense.
Yeah, I just wanted to grill, man.
Yeah, I just want to grill, man. But like you got to step out into the world if you want like these changes. Like you can say that like that fire is not my problem, but it's coming towards your house and it's going to burn you eventually. You need to do something about it. You know, be a little more proactive. And that's why I love Dan. I love Spike. I do like a lot of the stuff the Mises Caucus is doing of like, hey, we need to get out and actually like, do stuff like this. And obviously the Boog is like the perfect example of this, of like proving libertarian principles all the time of like, I don't care about teams. I want to fight tyranny and I'm going to go wherever I need to be to fight tyranny. That's where I'm going to go. And you'd be amazed of how many people I've talked to have never even heard the word libertarian before at like BLM protests and stuff. And they're like, I kind of like a lot of that because we definitely like staple on ideology to a lot of these local communities that they're borderline apolitical. They just hate the cops.
Right.
Like, you know, like they might go check D at the end of the day because that's what their grandparents and parents have done. But like they don't have these complex political ideologies that a lot of people on the right try to apply to them.
Sure. And that's one of the reasons why I appreciate Maj Touré so much. I mean, he travels the inner cities around the country and kind of talks about government tyranny and the Second Amendment, which I think is important because, you know, a lot of people in certain areas think, and I'm not saying it's just the black communities, but it is the inner city communities especially think they can't carry a gun. Or they aren't allowed to own guns. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not the truth. You can do this, and this is how you do it, and this is how you're safe about it, and this is why you should do it, and this is what the government's doing. And it's just such a good segue into all of these issues that kind of can help you see a different political aspect of this country. So, but you did say you had some big news at the beginning of the show, man. So why don't we get into it?
So we're still hammering out the details, but September 11th of this year, we are planning a huge post-partisan anti-war march in DC. And the people that I have been talking to and getting involved are all across the political spectrum and people you would not like think would work together usually, but are literally just like end the fucking wars. Like we're over, we're done. And like there's a lot of, you know, it was actually kind of inspired by that video of like the Mises Caucus guys doing this, of the like me and the Action for Assange people, because the Action for Assange people are very like post-political too. Like almost everyone who runs that is a leftist, but they just want you to show up if you like Julian Assange. They don't care about anything else. Are just trying to revitalize the anti-war movement and revitalize like early Occupy, because a lot of people, more people are talking about it now, but for a while it was totally forgotten that Occupy wasn't like this hippie leftist thing in the beginning. It was everybody. You had like conservative old people with American flags standing next to, I'm blanking on his name, but the economist guy that went down there and I'm trying to, what it was, fuck.
I don't know.
He's like,
but I was in the Occupy movement in Oakland, man. I'm from there, so yeah. But I don't. There was Ron Paul people there, and I was actually campaigning for Ron Paul at Occupy, and there was people who were totally like wanted to hear about it and hear about the Federal Reserve and how our economy's in the tank because of these people, and it was really cool. The Occupy movement was definitely a mishmash of a lot of different people. I know that for sure.
And that's like what we're trying to get back to, of just like these popular uprisings against big problems, because there's this obsession in America of like you'll see almost everybody talking about it, including people that I really like, of like the leftist establishment or the capitalist establishment or the right-wing establishment. It's like, no, the establishment we have in the United States and kind of the globe is so post-partisan. They don't operate in our little bubbles. Like they don't care if you call them whatever you want to call them. They'll tell you whatever they have to hear, but it's an oligarchy. It's monarchic almost. They will do whatever they need to do so them and their friends can get more power. A lot of them are transhumanists that like have weird, crazy ideas, like how Bill Gates was trying to block out the sun in Sweden and shit. And like, they don't care about your labels and they don't care about you, and they're going to do whatever they need to do to have power. So it's like, at some point you're just going to have to accept this and realize that like what exactly we're fighting against here, and stop trying to like boil it down.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Someone in the chat asked if you were reaching out to some of the paleocons and traditionalists, because they are typically pretty anti-war as well.
Oh yeah, I'm reaching out to everybody. Like Scott Horton said he would be interested. Thaddeus Russell said he would be interested. Obviously, there's going to be like the Jimmy Dore types and stuff like that would be interested. Like left, right, communist, socialist, like libertarian, conservative, anarchist, doesn't matter. We want it like everybody there. Like more information will start coming out as we get like more and more people on board. But we I had this conversation probably like, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, with a woman called, her name's Reverend Annie Chambers. She's one of the founders of the Black Panther Party. Well, not founders, sorry, one of the original people of the Black Panther Party. Like she used to know Malcolm X and everything like that. And she had a story about how the Black Panthers and the KKK marched together in Arizona because the governor had cut off like all benefits and like was doing like a bunch of evictions and stuff during the Vietnam War. And the Panthers walked up to like the Klan and was like, "Hey, are you getting fucked over?" And they were like, "Yeah." I was like, "Let's march together." And they shut down the Vegas Strip. So it's like, if the fucking KKK and the Black Panthers can work together, then like a libertarian socialist and a right-leaning libertarian can shut up for 15 minutes, like end the goddamn wars, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll keep saying it. I'll work with anybody that wants to end some wars, man. Definitely. Now, how do you feel? Where do you stand on the Libertarian Party?
Oh, okay. So I really, really, really hate how we have recreated the fucking culture war within our own party. That's really great. It's infinitely annoying. I commented on your exchange the other day. I don't know if you want to go into it at all, but I was like, holy fuck, this is so bad. And like, my two sides of it is like, to the Mises type people, definitely do not throw all left libertarians under the bus. I do see that a lot. I don't think like big people like you or Dave Smith or anyone are doing that, but a lot of just the followers and the normies. Like, there's a difference between us and wokeitarians, because I am more progressive and have more progressive clout and have done more things for all the things you stand for, and yet I'm not on Dave Smith's fucking comment section having a goddamn meltdown because of a word he said or something. Like, those people, screw those people. And then obviously to like the wokeitarians or whatever, like, yeah, you're just annoying and you're unproductive and you've made the LP be useless and accomplish nothing, and the people you're trying to pander to will never recognize you, so just shut up. And I always say the thing like if you're so upset over the Mises caucus takeover, then, you know, lead, follow, or get the fuck out of the way. Like, I don't know what to tell you, you know?
Right. I mean, you know, Nicholas Sarwark, the past chairman of the party, actually said, you know, that the Libertarian Party belongs to those who show up. And the Mises Caucus took that to heart, man. You know what I mean? They organized 48 states. How can you be mad about that?
Yeah.
You know what
like
I mean?
if I that's my main thing. Like I always say, and people get mad about it, but like I'm just on a different level than a lot of this shit. If you're not on the ground and you're not fighting and I don't hear about you, then I genuinely don't care about your opinion. And that's a lot of the like wokeitarian stuff. And that's obviously also like a lot of the fake left. Like a lot of when you go onto the ground to protest and talk to like actual like leftists there, they're totally different than the Twitter leftists. And even they will be like, the Twitter leftists are annoying. They don't do anything. And it's just performative, obnoxious bullshit. And that's kind of the same thing with the LP is like, you talk about what the LP needs to be and where it needs to go and how like blah, blah, blah. But like, I don't see you doing any activism. I don't see you putting in any work for the party. I don't see you doing nothing but fucking crying. So it's like, I don't care what you have to say. And they're like, oh, well, I got a job and responsibilities and I have kids or whatever. And it's like, the world's burning, man. Like if there was a time for people to throw all caution to the wind and do something, it would have been in the middle of COVID and we did nothing. That's why I heavily agree with Pete Cojones and a lot of other people that were like, we failed on COVID, like extraordinarily as a party. It was so sad and pathetic that there was not fucking bells from the sky of every libertarian everywhere, like doing something about this. And like I've had friends that are currently sitting in jail because they showed up to businesses that defied lockdown orders with rifles and told the cops to come and shut it down. And they did. They showed up with armored vehicles and like 70 cops and arrested all of them. But like that's where we're at. Like how committed are you to this? Because I get really annoyed because I'm in Mises chats and Unity chats, including like some like quote unquote wokeitarian chats. And every single one of them just like is still acting like this is a game. And I can't put my brain into that because like the FBI has showed up to my house and like threatened me. I have dead friends. I've lost my business. I'm flirting with homelessness, trying to pay my bills. Like this isn't something where I can just casually like on the computer, oh, let's talk about libertarianism and then go back to my regular life. Like this is my life. So if you want change and you think things are as bad as they are, then like start doing shit about it. Otherwise, like I don't care what you have to say about Dave Smith or so and so or how like we're doing this wrong or whatever. It's like, okay, then what are you doing about it?
Sure.
You know?
Sure. Yeah, I think one of my favorite quotes of the last 4 years actually came from Michael Heiss, the chairman of the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus. He said, "We're up against people that will napalm your children for resources. We don't need people who are upset over memes. We need soldiers that are ready to take on a state." Right. And that's exactly what it is. That's what it is to me too. And you know, as somebody who ran for chairman of the Libertarian National Committee twice, and has had more attacks leveled and slandered leveled at him and been slandered more than just about anybody else in this party for 4 years straight by all kinds of shitty people who do absolutely fucking nothing for the movement whatsoever. I can tell you that everything you're saying is absolutely true. These people are basically wastes of space in the libertarian movement for sure.
Yeah, they're ballast bags. That's all they do. They stop and they pump the brakes. You know, Michael Malus, you know, obviously his quote wasn't in relation to this, but you know, his whole thing about how conservatives are just progressives driving the speed limit, like that's what a lot of the LP is just like taxation is theft and free markets, but I'm just gonna sit over here in my thing, you know, like, oh, we had a meeting and 30 people showed up, this is so exciting. And it's like, dude, like I'm shooting way bigger than that. Like, you know.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I just want to give a quick shout out to Burt Grimm, who's like one of my favorite people in the freedom movement. He's in here throwing jokes in the chat. He said Joe Jorgensen was so anti-war she didn't even want to fight for the presidency. Ooh, ouch!
Ooh,
I had to laugh a little.
Yeah, I mean, I can dish some tea about that. Of Spike Cohen, biggest ally of the fucking boog ever. I love Spike. Spike has gone to like fucking war for us and like, you know, advocates for us all the time. Him and Vermin love us. Joe did not like the boogaloo. Joe would give us real weird looks, even though we did volunteer security for the LP party in every single fucking state. If there was a campaign stop, you're going to see Hawaiian shirts and guns there. And we protected them even when they went to sketchy ass places like Flint and Detroit and shit like that. Because, you know, obviously the LP doesn't get super special Secret Service to protect them everywhere. We did that volunteer without pay. And Joe was like, not cool with it.
Yeah, well, and so here's the thing. Here's the thing for me, and I, as somebody who sits on the Libertarian National Committee, I'm an at-large representative on the National Committee. I have some insider stuff. I know a lot of the people that were working on campaigns. I know people that were right outside the campaign, working on certain things. It was very alarming to me when Joe got the nomination. I was like, oh, this is cool. You know, she's pretty radical compared to Gary fucking Johnson, right? And so I was like, oh, this is awesome. But then immediately her campaign started kicking all the radicals off of her campaign team, dude. I mean, you know, they all ended up on Spike's campaign team, which is great. I'm glad. You know, Dan Smotz, who is fucking amazing. He runs the System Is Down podcast. He's the one that did all those videos for Spike and Joe, those really cool videos.
They're badass fucking videos.
Some of the best campaign videos I had seen. I mean, they were reminiscent of the McAfee campaign videos from 2016. And I'm going, this is great. But all those people got relegated down to Spike, and it felt like they were running. And I just had Spike on the show a couple weeks ago. It really felt like they were running two very separate campaigns because of the way that the top of the ticket handled everything. They kicked all the radicals off the campaign completely. I mean, Caitlin Cloven, Dan Smotz, there were several others too. I won't get into all of them, but a lot of them ended up on Spike's campaign. So it was like we had this great radical messaging campaign, whether you agreed with everything that Spike said or not. He was very radical in his messaging. And then we had Joe, who was like, let's just be one large Sweden, armed and neutral. And it was like, okay, dude, like, what is going on here? We have this huge opportunity. We are in the middle of a pandemic where they are locking people down and taking your jobs, and now they're getting ready to tell you that your children have to be vaccinated and that you can't go here and here and here if you don't get vaccinated. It's like, dude,
they're setting up vaccine like outposts outside of bars and trying to peer pressure drunk people into getting shots. Like, again, how bad does it have to get, you know, before like it's like, yeehaw, let's go. Like, yeah. I don't understand of like how is it going to get worse? You know, how much worse can it get? Because if I would have told people a year ago where we are now, like I remember, because I have friends in the National Guard, and I was running around like 3 days before COVID hit, like in Michigan, telling people like they're going to lock the state down. They're going to lock the state down. They're like, that'll never happen in America. You're so fucking crazy and blah, blah, blah. You're like, what are you talking about? And then they locked it down. Right. And then I'm like, they're going to start shutting down businesses at gunpoint. And they're like, they'll never do that. And it's like, guys.
Yeah, it blows my mind. Well, I was getting called we talked about this a little bit before the show too. I was getting called a conspiracy theorist a year ago. When I was like, hey, man, they're going to do this. They're going to do that. You know, anybody who was even mentioned the word microchip, right, like a year ago and before, was immediately called a loony, crazy conspiracy theorist. Now the Pentagon has actually created a chip they can implant subdermally, and it will constantly check you for COVID. Like, dude, are you not seeing what's going on here? Like, you know, say what you want.
Have you seen that meme where it's like Bill Gates and he's like looking for vaccinated singles in the area, and then like Wi-Fi signals start coming out of like girls' arms?
It makes sense though. He's like, oh, we're so glad we started this microchip program. You know, I can finally single.
Just in time for my wife to throw me under the bus because they don't want to know how involved she was with Epstein.
Yeah, Whoops. Yeah, no shit, right? Well, and here's the thing, dude. Like, I hate to say it, man, but like, Alex Jones has been right about a lot of shit.
Oh, yeah. The Alex Jones check counter, like how many times Alex Jones has been right. That's the thing about that dude is like, that's why I'm a big fan of Whitney Webb. If you haven't heard of her or any of your fans, she's essentially Alex Jones without any of the performance or bullshit, but she talks about all the same stuff and she's got like receipts for it. And the best Alex Jones thing ever was when he went on Joe Rogan and he had Jamie like live fact check him and he just say crazy shit. And, you know, Rogan's like, hold on, like pull that up. And he's like, son of a bitch, he's right. You know?
It's so crazy. And it was funny when, I can't remember who it was recently. Was it New York Times or People Magazine or something ran an article about the stem cells and how using human cells and blood can regenerate your own cells and stuff. And I posted it as like a joke. It was like totally joke. I was like, oh my God, Alex Jones is always right or whatever, right? Just joking around, just playing around. And man, it went viral. Like my post went viral and it was just progressive after progressive, like shitting on me, like from the Democrat Party, just shitting on me. And I'm like, dude, first of all, this was half a joke. Second of all, it's fucking true. Like it's really
the article,
true,
bro. It's the article, bro.
How can you not look at what's going on in this country. And
Washington Post, human monkey hybrids.
Yeah. Can we just give old AJ a little credit? The guy's a little wacko. He's fun to watch if you enjoy those theatrics. But a lot of the shit he's saying, like, fucking listen to it. This was the guy, who actually infiltrated the Bohemian Grove, right? Like way back in the day before anybody even really knew who Alex Jones was too much outside of Austin, Texas, right? He actually did that. He actually went there and like took video and proved like, hey, these people are doing some weird shit out here in the woods, man. Check this out,
Yeah, because that's like the foundation of like when I started getting into politics was like old Tim Pool, Luke Rachowski, like old Alex Jones, like all those like guerrilla, like early YouTube people like breaking into shit and sneaking around, getting tear gassed.
Oh yeah,
that's my foundation.
I follow Rudowski. I like a lot. Man, he's one of my favorites for sure. Shout out to Beej again for a $50 super chat. Thank you very much. And Phil that Remains, the lead singer of All That Remains, says, got a super chat, says, are you guys real libertarian? I've never seen a real libertarian. You're damn right. We're both real libertarians. Tell him, Magnus.
Yep. 100%. Actually, no, I'm not a real libertarian. I'm an anarchist, so I'm even worse.
Man, I've been seeing this a lot lately on the interwebs. People saying that anarchists, oh, that's not a libertarian, that's an anarchist, or oh, that's not an anarchist, that's a libertarian. I'm like, you guys realize that this is the same shit, right? Like, right. Look, I understand that there's libertarians who want to have a smaller state, a night watchman state, or minarchists, or whatever the hell you want to call yourself. But we're all on the same fucking train, dude. We're just getting off at different exits. You know what I mean? Like at some point, you guys are going to hop off and be like, hey, that's cool. I finally got this little local government that just wants to protect my civil rights and make sure the roads are good. Cool. See you later. I'm going to head down the road to the next stop where there is none of that. And we're just going to pave our own roads in our own community. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's the same shit. I don't know why I've been seeing this split so much lately. For the longest time, it was, libertarians are anarchists and anarchists are libertarians. Like that's, you know what I mean? And so I don't get it. What do you think's causing that split there?
I think it's like the double whammy of like the appropriation of libertarian by Trump supporters and like Rand Paul types and stuff like that are more Republican than anything, combined with just like the unending shit show that is the LP over the last couple of years, ever since like the Gary Johnson days, where people are just like, I don't really like that label. I don't want anything to do with that. You see people be like, I'm not a libertarian. I'm just anti-authoritarian. And it's just labels. Labels in general are stupid. They don't mean anything. I'm very much of the Max Stirner approach that like ideology is a spook and it's not real.
Sure. Yeah. And I liked a lot of Stirner's takes too. Except, I don't think a lot of people that really worship Stirner, right? They have never read Stirner. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's like the same kind of thing as Hoppe. It's the same kind of thing as like Kropotkin, right? And like there's a lot of people out there that would like get this man tattooed on him that have never read anything that he's ever put out ever. And a lot of people understand that he kind of was from the mindset in a lot of his writings where might makes right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, like that's the thing is like you can hate Stirner all you want, but like at the end of the day, he's right because like his main thing is like nothing matters but what you decide that matters, and it's like, yep, it's a law of the land, like religion, governments, borders, constitution, morality, like none of that matters unless you decide it matters. Sure. So it's like
and at some point, some people came together, decided it mattered, and decided they were going to rule over us, and that's what we're trying to push back against.
Yep. But Stirner is the best for the memes because the Stirner memes are just hilarious. Like the one where it's like the capitalist is like taxation is theft and the communist is like property is theft, and then Stirner's like, what's wrong with theft?
Right. That's exactly Stirner. Stirner did not give a shit. And I was reading. Oh God, I can't remember who it was. It was like Stirner was sitting in a room with a bunch of anarchist thinkers or something, and they were like describing him, and I've read a couple different papers describing Max, and they were always like, he was like the drunk guy in the corner that was like, hey, fuck you guys, like I don't care.
He was just a giant fucking asshole.
Yeah, like he was just constantly an asshole to everyone and didn't give a shit at all. And I'm like, I have to think back to those times, and I'm like, man, that might have been me, dude.
Right. Stirner's within all of us.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Stirner in all of us for sure. Get a couple of shots of whiskey in you and start thinking about ideology and see where your brain goes. So what's next for the Boog, man? What's next for you?
Oh God, this summer is going to be like madness. So the 28th, we're going back to Louisville because that's the year anniversary of all the protests kicking off there. Which like I could talk about what's gone on in Louisville the media has not covered how fucking crazy it's been or what's happening there, and it's been very intentional because Louisville is like a whole different animal than anywhere in the country right now, and everyone involved and everything that's happened there does not fit any media narrative, whether it be right-wing or left-wing media. Like, and that's why they don't talk about it, despite the fact that there's been huge marches there every single day. I had friends that had flashbangs dropped on them from helicopters. Like, there's been like gunfights with the cops. Like, Louisville is insane. Nobody talks about it. And we're going back there on the 28th. And then I'm in works right now with Spike and Thaddeus Russell because Lainey Sweet, which is the widow of Daniel Shaver, is starting her like legal battle against the Mesa, Arizona Police Department for what happened to Daniel. And like nobody's protested for him at all, which is wrong, like 100%. So we're trying to get some kind of thing going for him because the Daniel Shaver thing's some of the worst shit I've ever seen in my life, you know.
And Duncan Lemp too.
Oh yeah, and that's the other thing too is we're trying to get something going for Duncan in Maryland, so that's also going to be this summer because like that's what started the Boogaloo shit. Like that, it all starts with Duncan, and we still haven't done a protest for him, which just seems kind of like wrong. So I'm trying to change that. We're trying to get something going for that, and then obviously the anti-war thing that we're working on. So it's just like a million spinning plates all at the same time, you know, and then like everyone trying to stop us or kill us or lie about us constantly. I got doxxed by the Washington Post. That was super fun.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's a good time. You gotta love that shit when the media starts doxing you.
They called my fucking grandma.
Wow. I got a funny story about that. One time I was at work one time. My mom calls me freaking out. She's like, "Are you in jail?" I'm like, "What? Why would I be in jail?" She's like, "Your grandma just got a phone call from you saying that you were in jail and you needed $1,000 to get out of jail right away." She said it sounded
trying to scam you.
Yeah, she said it sounded just like you and everything. And I'm going, I am literally standing at work right now. Like, what the hell is going on? I think back and I'm like, man, it had to have been somebody who knows me, knows what my voice sounded like, you know what I mean? Like, man, I bet it was the government messing with my grandma.
Yeah, of course. It was the feds. It's always the feds.
Yeah. So why are the feds the worst entity in the entire world?
Oh yeah, it's just this is my argument, another like unity argument for both the left and right, is that 10,000 Trump supporters or 10,000 scary communists in black hoodies will be infinitely less scary than the federal government, because right now, probably at some point in this conversation, I have said something that could get a FBI warrant on me. If they kick that door in right there, if I stop the agents trying to take me, more are going to show up. And if I stop them, then tanks are going to show up. And if finally I stop them, they're going to drone strike my building or send a bomb drone in and blow me up. Like a bunch of Trump supporters or communists or whatever cannot do that to you. They're not currently spying on this conversation. They can't shut your bank account down. They're not working with all these, giant, tech giants to screw you over. I've told everybody, but I'm banned off of literally everything but Twitter. I cannot make a Facebook, PayPal, Instagram. My Etsy shop was closed down. I can't do Uber Eats or DoorDash, all of it. Like, I'm banned off.
You can't do DoorDash, dude? They won't let you fucking have food delivered to your house?
Yep. It was funny. When I was in DC for the Free Julian Assange thing, they were like, "Okay, you want to get Uber Eats?" And I'm like, "Sure." And they said like you can add what you want to the order, and I forgot about it. So I tried to log into my Uber Eats account. It's like, your account has been temporarily suspended. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm just like not allowed to function. I don't know why Twitter has allowed me to live this long.
Yeah, well, I'm booted from Facebook and Instagram for life.
Yep.
And the funny thing about my boot was it was 2 weeks before the presidential election. I sit on the Libertarian National Committee.
Oh, you were in the Libertarian purge. Where they deleted like a third of the Libertarian Party off of the.
But they let so many of those people come back, and I started another account maybe 2 weeks later, and within 6 hours that was taken down. That one I did from a different email address but the same IP address. Then I just started one a couple weeks ago from a completely different IP address, used a completely different cell phone and a completely different email. Still within 6 hours I was gone.
Yep. Mine has gotten to the point where it doesn't matter what I do. As soon as I hit create account, it's immediately banned. Doesn't matter if like burner phone through a VPN on a different, and I don't even use my name and I don't even use a picture of myself, and it will get banned.
It doesn't make any damn sense how they can get us. Thanks to Top Lobster, our great sponsor, for the awesome super chat. He said, "What a great show." I guess he's a fan, man.
as an artist, I fucking love you, man. That shit's awesome.
Dude, he's so dope, and he'll give you. I'm sure he'll give you the PG. That's probably one of the coolest benefits coming on my shows. You get yourself drawn by Top Lobster.
I didn't know that was gonna happen. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can't do the show without it. I mean, it's now the official branding of Break the Cycle. Top Lobster is no longer just a sponsor; he is the partner. I mean, it's really, you know what I mean. All my art, my branding, everything is because of this man. So please, if you're watching, go to toplobster.com and buy some gear, man. He's got the dopest shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
if I wasn't a mega poor, I would buy from you.
Yeah.
Like, people were clowning on me on Twitter of like my like poor like rifle setup and everything. And it's like, dude, like I what I did before all of this is I was a commissioned painter. I would be that guy that has like booths at like festivals and like art shows and like the Renaissance festivals, and I would like sell like art there. So obviously COVID shut that down, and then getting banned off of everything shut my online version of that off. So like I'm unemployed. I've been unemployed this whole goddamn time. Jeez. So it's like, and I live out in the boonies in Michigan. So it's like, oh, well, go get a job. And it's like, there's nothing around. Like you can work for fast food, but like because of everything else that's going on with the economy, which that's a whole nother conversation. Like they're having days where they're closing early or just being like, oh yeah, well, we can't work today. Sure. So it's like, I don't know if you've been seeing all of the what's been going viral of all these businesses all across the country. They're putting signs on the door that's like, well, we can't open today because nobody wants to work.
Yeah, they can't hire anybody, man.
You
make more money on unemployment. So there was a month I was on unemployment when I moved to Iowa. I left California 5 minutes before they instituted the 24-hour lockdown. Literally, my plane left at 11:55. The lockdown started at midnight. I flew to Iowa to be with my girlfriend. Ended up getting pregnant. We have a great son now, 7 kids in the house, and I never left. And now I live in the land of ranch dressing and corn, which is fine. It's cool. You know, the people here are really fucking friendly, and the lockdowns have been minimal. God, where was I going with that?
I'm jealous coming from the land of Whitmer.
Yeah, no shit. But so I was on unemployment. I was on unemployment for like 1 month, right, when I moved out here, and it was like $2,200 every 2 weeks just dropped into your account, and I'm going, holy shit! I've never made that much on unemployment in my life. It's like it was almost what I made from my day job. You know what I mean? And I'm going, why would anybody go back to work? And now we're seeing the effects of that. And that's, in fact, when I talk to some of my left libertarian friends who have been in support of a UBI, I'm like, this is the only argument that should need to be made against the government mandated UBI. We can't even get people to go to work, dude. You know what I mean?
No, if I got UBI, I would just be a full-time activist. That wouldn't work anything, 100%, because that's what I want to do with my life. And having to like do a regular job, it makes it harder to do that.
Right.
You know. But that's the crazy thing for me is like, it's not even a case of that, because this is my argument to the left a lot, because I think this is the most underreported thing that's happened in COVID. No unemployment, no business loan, no stimulus check. I've not gotten a single one. I have applied for all of it. I've been declined for all of it, or I've never heard back this entire time. I have not received a single dollar during all of this from the government. And there is a lot of people that are in that situation, and they don't talk about it. Like the right just complains about the lockdowns. It doesn't talk about that. And then the left just complains about people violating mask orders and stuff like that. But the people that just kind of got left behind, and like, I've talked to like on 100 people, you'll probably find like 7 or 8 people. They're like, yeah, I'm still waiting on unemployment from like 8 months ago. I never received a stimulus check. There's tons of like bars and businesses that never got the PPE loan, but like, obviously like, mega corporations did, and they spent it on stupid shit.
Yeah, like, so of course. Well, and I have one buddy who's like, dude, I've already gotten like 4 PPE loans, but don't tell anybody. I'm like, holy shit! How did you do that?
I didn't get any of that, and I know so many people. Like, surprising enough, Sky News did a documentary in Michigan that they actually like. It didn't get any traction because it's counter to the narrative, but they were going around talking to all these businesses. They're like, well, the government's helping you, right? And they're like, no. Like, why not? And we're like, you tell me. Like, I'm a bar. I've been open for 20 years. I'm successful. I'm known in the community. They told me I can't get a PPE loan. So now my bar is getting closed down. And it's like, nobody's talking about that. Like, even like libertarians and like Republicans that are anti-lockdown, they're not talking about like what's going on. And that's always been my argument of like, I can put, obviously I have my principled argument, but I can just take my principles, throw them in the garbage for a second. When you boil it down, it comes down to freedom or security, right? So like, if you're going to do this incredibly fascistic like lockdown and shut everything down, then you need to take care of everybody, or you let everybody do whatever the hell they want. We're doing neither of those things. We're in this weird, awful middle ground where you can't do what you want, but also the government's not going to help you. So it's just like, I heard Dave Smith just the other night describe it on Tim Pool as authoritarian anarchism. And it's like, yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, it's
like
exactly
the law. The laws are illusion. Like, if you want to do something that might benefit you, that's illegal. But if you want to like protect yourself, that's, it doesn't make any sense. It's clown world is where we live in.
Holy shit. Michael Bolden's in the chat. I just want to talk about Break the Cycle chat. We have the coolest chat in all of Liberty shows. I just want everyone to understand that we have Phil from All That Remains. We have Burt Grimm, Neocon Remover, my mother, Michael Bolden, my fiance, and Top Lobster, and all the homies in one chat at every show. You guys are missing out. Definitely check it out.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, my mom watches almost every single show, dude, like live. I talked about this a little bit. My mom, I used to like sing in metal bands, like super heavy metal bands. My mom would be at the front row all the time. She did not her kind of music at all, but she did not give a shit. She would headbang. She'd be throwing up devil horns. I'm like, dude, this is whose mom does that? You know what I mean?
That's my dad, because my dad was like a greaser in Detroit, like super like hair rock and everything like that, and he'd come to like some crazy grindcore shows and be like 55 years old, bald dude, like in the mosh pit and shit. It's like, let's fucking go.
Dude, that's fucking great. We got another super chat. Elijah Marquez, thank you, sir. He said, guys, check out Joshua's pinned tweet and consider helping some kids see the bright side of life while listening to these bass dudes. Yeah, I put out a GoFundMe to, I'm going to be quiet, to help my kids go on a vacation of a lifetime after having some tough times. They'll probably hear me. I'm trying to keep it a surprise, but yeah, if you guys want to check out my pinned tweet on Twitter, you can find that there. It is.
I do love how Michael Malus simultaneously trolled and boosted it at the same time.
It was
perfect.
Honestly,
perfect
the best
moment.
thing that could have happened for it. I mean, Michael's amazing. I gave him a couple different shout outs and then also sent him a message. I knew he wouldn't respond because he's a busy dude, but he
I also like people get so mad at him because they're like, a lot of the things he does hurts the LP and hurts the LP message. Is like, dude, he's an anarchist. He thinks the LP's stupid. He's only in it for the joke, bro. Like,
no,
I don't know what to tell you. Like, I love him. Don't get me wrong. Malus is one of my North Stars, but like, I do think a lot of people that are just like, oh, why is he, he needs to stop making fun of the LP and shit like that. And it's like,
well, I'm going to be talking about this on every show from now on. There's talks of Dave Smith maybe running for president. It's all speculation at this point, but
it's happening.
Let's
stop fucking pretend.
It's all speculation. But if it does happen, he's already said that his press secretary will be Michael Malus. And if you can think of a better thing to happen to American politics in this country than having Michael Malus as the press secretary in the White House, there isn't a better thing.
But again, like what I mean, like everything's like a troll and a joke to Malus. He's only interested in that because it essentially means he can take his Twitter profile and put it on a stage in front of a bunch of journalists and just do what he does normally.
It will be the death of biased, shitty journalism in this country. It will be the death of it, and that's what I want. That's what I want to see.
Yes,
that's what I want to see.
He will be on stage and he will make memes of them until they cry, and then make memes about them crying.
He'll pull out. He will literally blow up his memes, print them out, and bring them on stage. You know what I mean? And put them.
Knowing him, he would probably like hire like a professional clown or something like that just has like a stack of paper meme cutouts and just hold them up behind him when he's
done. It'd be so great. I want to see it so bad. You guys, we have to get Dave Smith to run for president, and we have to get him to win.
He's gonna do it.
So we can have Michael Malus as press secretary in the White House. It would be the funniest thing. Could you imagine? It won't even matter what news channel you watch anymore. It's all going to rule. It's all going to be amazing.
It's ridiculous. Obviously, I'm a man of little faith, but I will support it just for the sake of it would be hilarious.
Yeah, Malus said he'd become the press secretary for 1 Bitcoin per month. So it's
well, that's only like what, like
$60,000 a month.
Yeah. 60,000
for currently, but by then it could be $100,000 a month. It could be $1 million a month. You never know.
Well, I mean, the way things are going, goddamn, I wish I had some spare income to throw into it because holy crap, like this is all going down the drain. The commodity market's like exploded. The thing that's going on with the oil and gas and like I do a lot of gig work out of like grocery stores and stuff like that, and I can tell you right now, the prices are going up. There's like weird things that you would never think about that is just gone. Like Drano. There's no Drano anywhere. Like nobody has Drano in stock. Cat food. Like there's a giant run on cat food. There's just no cat. Like just weird shit that you would never think of is just gone from the store.
We will be
and that's kind of like
in like 5 years, man.
Yeah, we borderline are now. Like, we kind of pretend it's not happening. I mean, if you think like peer to peer, like, oh, what did Venezuela like nationalized a bunch of like industries? What did we do during COVID? We literally took over like factories and made them start making PPE and shit. Yep. Like, what's the fundamental difference at this point?
I was reading I was reading something. I can't remember if this is the exact figure or not, but it was like the U.S. dollar, the fiat dollar, is worth 97% less than it was in the 70s. That's insane.
I think Spike tweeted it out like last night.
Insane, man. Well, shit, that's pretty much all the questions I got for you, bud. Where can these people find you? Where are you allowed to be, Magnus?
So yeah, I'm on Twitter at Magnus Panvidya, and then I'm on YouTube, which is also Magnus Panvidya, and then I have a podcast that I run that's called Unity or Death, where essentially I'm doing like pretty much my on the ground Unity stuff, like online. Like I've had a Black Panther on there. I've had an anarcho-communist. I've had a bunch of anarchists. I'm having Shane Hazel on tomorrow. So it's like everybody. Like we're all just gonna get everyone together and complain about the government.
You guys need to make. Listen, Shane Hazel needs to be like a general for the Boog. I mean, he's fire. Oh, yeah. He's a fire human.
I love him. We'll get him a Hawaiian shirt eventually.
Hell yeah, man.
But yeah, so that's on YouTube, Spotify, and Castbox. So that's where all that is. And then other than that, events everywhere. You'll see my face all over the place. I travel a lot. So
sick. Sounds good, man. Hey, dude, I can't tell you how much it means to me that you came on the show. We really appreciate you here for sure. I'm sure most of my followers here and the people in the chat enjoyed the show. You keep kicking ass, man, and let us know what you need. I know there's some people that follow me that are already asking in the chat what can they do to help. So definitely let's have some more conversations down the line and see if we can continue to organize until every big tech company removes us from everything.
Oh, yes. And then we get our doors kicked in and mysteriously disappeared and found on a beach where we shot ourselves in the back of the head 5 times. It'll be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Magnus, thanks again for coming on, man. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Another awesome episode of Break the Cycle. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. Definitely make sure you check out lorenzotti.coffee for all your delicious Italian needs. Coffee needs delivered directly to your door. Bring the taste of Italy home. Use BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. Of course, toplobster.com, the man in the chat, the man with the pin. He is the one who makes all of these wonderful shirts, like this great Epstein Didn't Kill Himself shirt. I wear Top Lobster almost exclusively on the show. A couple of times I have wore Neocon Remover or Burt Grimm. And of course, anthemplanning.com for all your emergency and crisis planning needs. Definitely hit them up, see if they can help your business or your personal life. They're doing something that the government sucks ass at, and you can probably, or they could probably do for much cheaper and much more efficiently. Tomorrow, coming up on the show, we have Isabella Riley. I actually had to record that show. It was the only way we were going to get it done. So I recorded it today. It's a pretty good show. She came from Turning Point, Prager. She was a Trump supporter. She's now becoming a full-blown anarchist. She's definitely more on the Murray Rothbard side of things. She's joining the Libertarian Party. So she can't wait for a Malus press secretary as well. That's going to be the new theme of this show. We are going to get Michael Malus into the White House because nothing in this world better could happen to politics. Guys, can you please check out the Patreon, patreon.com/breakthecyclejs. Sign up for all the awesome rewards. People are starting to get their coffee mugs for the mug club now that I definitely didn't steal from Steven Crowder. Also, the t-shirt that you can get is a special t-shirt only for patrons. Pretty cool stuff. We also have the Discord server with all the great patrons in there that you get to hang out with at any time you want. And also, if you hate Patreon, you can check out subscribestar.com/breakthecyclejs. They're definitely less yeety. I'm still learning how to use that platform. Like someone said in the super chat, check out my pinned tweet on Twitter at Joshua at large. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe you could help us out. It's a really special cause, near and dear to my heart, trying to help some kids do some cool things. But other than that, I will see you guys tomorrow night for the show with Isabel Riley, and then again on Friday with Monica Perez from the Propaganda Report. That is going to be an awesome show. But until then, don't forget to break the cycle. Due to legal reasons
reasons I just have to explain. The lyrics of my last song may seem to contain a violent call to action in the verse and refrain, but I just meant it in Minecraft. The helicopter part was in reference to GTA 5 and the things you do. So any violence you commit, I am not an excuse, because I just meant it in Minecraft. Well, Chipper is my friend and he's constantly cold. Accusations of incitement getting totally old. Make your own choices, yeah, you have control, because I just meant it in Minecraft. Obviously I would never advocate force, unless there's due process and a trial, of course. And if you're convicted, we will make you a corpse in Minecraft, just in Minecraft. Nothing I mean, you know it. No product theaters, gets it closed for COVID.